Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, encouraging news regarding the latest gene therapy treatment for sickle cell disease. Also tonight, the impact of new data shows that Black and Hispanic Arizonans are less likely to get vaccinated for COVID. And Valley of the Sun United Way releases its latest report on how Arizona stands in terms of education, housing, and health care. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
This hour of local news is made possible by contributions from the Friends of PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The House of Representatives late this afternoon officially approved an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. This despite no evidence as yet that Biden acted corruptly or accepted bribes in his current role or as vice president. Every Republican in the House voted in favor of the impeachment inquiry process that centers around the business dealings of Biden's family members. The president has called the effort a, quote, baseless political stunt. Other headlines, the U.S. Supreme Court today agreed to hear a case involving the abortion pill mifepristone. The justices will review an appeals court decision that puts significant restrictions on the drug, which is used in more than half of pregnancy terminations in the U.S. This is the first major case involving abortion to hit the Supreme Court since the court overturned the constitutional right to an abortion more than a year ago. The case also calls into question the judgment and authority of the FDA to approve any medication for public use. A decision would likely not come down until next June, and that's of note because that'll be in the heart of the political primary season across the country. The High Court today also agreed to hear a case involving a defendant arrested in connection with the riot at the U.S. Capitol. The justices will decide if the defendant can be charged with the federal crime of obstructing an official proceeding. Now, a federal appeals court has ruled that he can be so charged, but only after a district court ruled that the federal statute only applied to action involving a, quote, document, record, or other object. The case could have implications for other defendants charged with January 6th related crimes, including Donald Trump. 3 Kari Lake election attorneys are facing disciplinary proceedings by a committee that regulates attorneys in the state. The committee found that there is probable cause that the attorneys should face discipline for their continued attempts to challenge the results of last year's governor's race, which Lake lost. The committee's actions follow an investigation by the State Bar of Arizona. The same 3 attorneys representing Lake have already been sanctioned by judges for false claims made about last year's election count. Economic note, the Fed today again left interest rates unchanged.
The committee decided at today's meeting to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 5.25% to 5.5% and to continue the process of significantly reducing our securities holdings.
It's the third straight time that the central bank has kept borrowing costs steady, though rates are still at a 22-year high. This was the Fed's final policy decision of the year. Fed officials projected that they will likely cut interest rates up to 3 times next year. Officials today also predicted that inflation will reach the Fed's ultimate 2% goal in 2026. Gazers rejoice, a Geminid meteor shower is set for tonight in the overnight hours. The annual show is expected to be especially active this year due to lack of moonlight. Experts say that if you get far enough away from city lights and there are no clouds in the way, you might be able to see up to 100 flashes of celestial light per hour. Last week, the FDA announced its approval for the first CRISPR gene therapy to help treat patients with sickle cell disease. It's considered a significant development in the treatment of sickle cell disorders. And joining us now is Ben Hurlbut. He's the bioethicist and science historian at the ASU School of Life Sciences. Ben, thank you so much for joining us. And I call it gene therapy, but really, there's a gene therapy and then there's a CRISPR. There are 2 really avenues attacking sickle cell disease. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, so what's interesting and exciting about these therapies, first of all, is that they're the first therapies that mostly alleviate or completely eliminate the symptoms of sickle cell disease, which can be horrible pain, systemic damage to the body, and so forth. But one of these therapies is based on a new technology, a technology that was developed only a decade ago called CRISPR-Cas9, which is a gene editing technology. And it's the first therapy that has been approved using this technology. And that is a lightning fast process from discovery to development of a therapy and approval.
It sure sounds like it. Give us a layman's view here of what CRISPR is and what the process, how the process works.
So what CRISPR is a tool that was sort of derived, it's kind of a hack of a bacterial immune system that uses a very targeted guide that can take you to a very specific spot that you choose on it, according to a DNA sequence, and then attaches a protein to it and makes a cut. And that means that you can make very precise modifications to any DNA and essentially any organism.
And that includes DNA that's associated with sickle cell disease.
Yeah, so with this therapy, essentially what they do is they remove the blood-forming cells, stem cells, from the patient, and they genetically modify them with this CRISPR therapy by destroying a gene that suppresses the expression of fetal hemoglobin, the blood that is produced during fetal development but then is shut off afterwards. And by turning it back on, normal, healthy blood is produced, and the symptoms of sickle cell disease essentially go away.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. It also sounds like it might work with other diseases and disorders?
Yes, so there's a lot of promise with CRISPR-based therapies. I mean, in a sense, any genetic disease, in principle, where the modification, the CRISPR tool can make a modification that could affect that disease, is susceptible to, I mean, people hesitate to use the word cure, but it's being, I mean, that's what it's aiming at.
I was going to say, it sounds like that's pretty doggone close. I want to get back to the kind of iffy stuff here with gene editing and stuff. But the gene therapy, the other model is not quite as revolutionary, but it does seem like it's working, huh?
So it's revolutionary in the sense that it has an extraordinary curative, essentially, effect on people with the disease, but it uses a different technique. It's not this new CRISPR technique.
What kind of technique is it?
I mean, it's a viral gene therapy that essentially inserts a functioning adult hemoglobin gene into the genome. So the patient produces normal, non-sickling blood cells.
So one of them uses CRISPR to edit and make the difference. This one uses just get something in the gene sequence.
So the CRISPR one snips out a section of DNA that has the desired effect. The other one inserts a gene.
All right, and this is again sickle cell. Let's talk more about sickle cell disease, an inherited blood disorder, as you mentioned. And my entire life I've heard about sickle cell anemia, sickle cell disease. It just sounds like it's such a difficult disease to treat.
So it's a very difficult disease to treat, and it's a very difficult disease to live with. Essentially what it is a mutation in the hemoglobin gene that causes this is the protein in red blood cells. It causes them to sort of clump together, and the result is that red blood cells, normal healthy red blood cells, are nice round discs. It causes them to turn into kind of half moon shapes, to sickle. I mean, that has all kinds of, it basically clogs up the circulatory system with all sorts of horrible systemic effects, including severe pain, extended episodes of severe pain.
Wow. Now, bone marrow transplants have been used, but those are kind of risky, right?
Yeah, so those are risky. And actually, both of these therapies involve a similar process in the sense that you have to essentially destroy the patient's blood system and replace it. But with a bone marrow transplant, you're replacing it with a donor that is hopefully matched. It's not always easy to find a match. In fact, it's quite hard to find a match. With this, you're replacing their blood system with their own blood system, just slightly modified.
Let's get back to CRISPR. Let's get back to ethical concerns regarding, what about those two little girls I remember reading about 5 some odd years ago? They were kind of created, weren't they?
So these girls were genetically edited as embryos. So CRISPR, like I said, is a powerful tool that can be applied in all sorts of different contexts for all sorts of different purposes. It's an extremely versatile tool, which means that it can also be applied to human gametes or embryos, with the effect being, with these therapies, you're making a modification just to the blood system. Whereas if you modify a single cell embryo, every cell in the resulting person's body is going to be genetically modified, which means that genetic modification will be passed on to their children and to their children's children and so forth.
Wow.
And, in principle, you can apply it for addressing disease-causing genes, but you could apply it for any enormous range of other things as well.
And as far as people in the business, people like you concerned about that?
Yes, very concerned, because it's a hammer with many potential nails, if you know what I mean.
Are regulations in place now, or regulations being discussed? I mean, it's one of these things where we'll deal with it when we get to it?
Yes, well, in a sense, this is the problem. We've seen this coming for 50 years, but we sort of didn't deal with it properly, or at least some countries did and some countries didn't. Ours is one that has only dealt with it relatively recently and not very thoroughly. So what we're confronted with now are questions about, with this powerful tool, what are the appropriate sorts of applications? I mean, sickle cell disease in a patient that is suffering from this disease, that seems totally straightforward. But I mean, think about, there's an enormous range of other human differences that you could characterize as disease, or you could just characterize as undesirable, and maybe those become targets of modification. And when you get into reproduction, it's, in a sense, you're much more in the domain of acting on desires,
right?
Customizing people, as opposed to, you would not enter into a therapy like this lightly. It is a horrible process to go through the chemotherapy required to eliminate your blood system to receive this treatment. But there are other ways of applying this technology that maybe are less demanding, but would have profound effects on the resulting person and arguably on the species or on the community of which that person is a member.
Brave new world, Ben Hurlbut. ASU School of Life Sciences is here. It arrived. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Up next on Arizona Horizon, why interest in the COVID vaccine has declined among Arizona's Black and Hispanic residents.
Hey, I'm Rick Steves. Join me for a look at the art and architecture of the Baroque era. We'll see how religious struggles led to both exuberant Catholic art and dramatic secular art. We'll see how Bernini brought marble to life and how Caravaggio amped up the excitement. And finally, we'll see how the era of divine right kings took the controlled exuberance of Baroque to the uncontrolled exuberance of Rococo.
Tonight at 7:30 on Arizona PBS.
Alice, your rabbit hole awaits, Your Majesty.
Down the rabbit hole, be your Alice. What do you suppose it's like?
Like being adrift,
Sea of tears.
or like being in love.
Who are you? Where are we, Mr. Dodgson? Wonderland!
This isn't quite what I had in mind.
One can't just believe in possible things.
Friday night at 8 on Arizona PBS.
New research shows that Black and Hispanic people in Arizona have been less likely to get vaccinated for COVID. Why is this happening, and how much does messaging have to do with it? For that, we asked Dr. Sairam Parthasarathy. That's Parthasarathy. I knew I would get it kind of close. He's been researching the issue at the University of Arizona. And Doctor, it's good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. It's very interesting. What's going on out there with it? I mean, Black and Hispanic residents from the start of COVID, or has it trended up? What's happening?
So the good news is that the trends are up with regards to all of the communities. But it is true that the people of color, namely Blacks, Hispanics, as well as Native Americans, have actually borne a disproportionate burden of the COVID disease, and actually have been disproportionately out of proportion to the representation in the population be admitted to the hospitals and also have died from the vaccine. So there's been some historical, trust or mistrust issues based on prior history that has led them to be hesitant. However, over the course of time, there has been an improvement in adoption and willingness to get the vaccine, but there are differences across the various communities.
Let's talk about why this existed in the first place and how it has improved, why it has improved.
Yeah, initially there was a greater amount of hesitancy in people of color for the reasons that were mentioned.
Yes.
And that's where we kind of come in. So there's a initiative which is across the state. It's called the Community Engagement Alliance Against COVID Disparities, or CEAL for short, which is actually funded by the National Institutes of Health, which specifically made sure that we start addressing some of those issues surrounding vaccine hesitancy by culturally adapting some of the information that is important for someone to make a personal decision about whether they should take the vaccine or not, and whether that's the right vaccine or that's the right approach for them. And so it is important that we give trustworthy science-based information, anything regarding medicine and health, through trustworthy sources that is giving accurate information in the era of misinformation and disinformation.
How do you do that? I mean, who give me a trusted source for certain communities and why that source is trusted and maybe another would not be.
Yeah, it is very different in various communities, and even amongst the Hispanics, when you look at it at large, there are various communities within the Hispanic community. So we have to be careful how we approach it. One of the key gold standards for how we approach this is, community health workers who earn the trust of those communities and have been in a relationship with them, long-standing trusts that they have developed, where they have done good for those communities, and the communities have observed that. And so they're more willing to trust these reliable sources rather than we plop someone right in the middle of a 1 in 100 years pandemic, and suddenly we are supposed to trust them. And so that's one. Two is there are various sources. For example, in places of worship, in barbershops, there are a more likelihood of messages actually being shared and for there to be uptake in the community.
The J&J vaccine had some real problems early on with side effects. I would imagine it probably took a long time to get over that hurdle, didn't it?
It did. And I think one of the key elements that we did in a recent publication is that we observed how that news actually came into being. You're doing an important work of communicating trustworthy information over the many years, and you have an audience that listens to you. And now that uptake in certain communities, may not happen in certain instances. And so the key idea here is to provide this information to these communities through science-based information.
And I would imagine another key would be get this information out, get that trust, because it probably affects other vaccinations as well?
Yeah, so in the specific case of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, there were some communities, such as people of color in the Hispanic community, that they already had a low uptake for that particular vaccine. They were not as willing to get the vaccine. But the moment the news that the J&J vaccine can actually cause life-threatening blood clots came into public awareness, we noticed that the dissemination of the information caused a sort of a rapid decline in willingness to get that vaccine. However, people still were willing to get the mRNA vaccine, the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines. However, we also noticed that there was a 5-month, 6-month lag before these communities reached a new baseline of willingness. In other words, they continued to drop over 5 to 6 months. And this is almost like saying there's a recall of an important part of a vehicle. And we have to get that information out there. Just imagine people are driving that vehicle in a dangerous situation for 5 to 6 months after the information became available. I think, especially in this situation of a pandemic, we need to have a rapid, effective communication of science-based information that the people can immediately listen to and uptake it. So we noticed that there was a significant decline steeper decline in people of color than in non-Hispanic whites. And it also continued to decline over a 5 to 6 month period, which we thought that means the public health information or dissemination, either we're not getting to them or we're not getting to them in a trustworthy manner, or they have inherent biases against the vaccine. So it's unclear. But it talks to why we need to have a very robust, strong information system, public health information system in the state and in the country for us to be able to rapidly and effectively get the message out there that influences people's day-to-day decisions.
Well, you're certainly getting the message out there. Dr. Parthasarathy, again, University of Arizona, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The Valley of the Sun United Way recently released its annual report card showing progress made to improve education, housing, and health care in Arizona. And joining us now from the Valley of the Sun United Way, President and CEO Carla Vargas Llesa, and Chief Community Development and Engagement Officer for Valley of the Sun United Way, Emma Garcia. Carla, Emma, good to have you both here. Boy, there's a lot to... Let's start with you. The Mighty Change Initiative, what is that?
Well, Ted, last time that we were together, we were actually just launching the Mighty Change Initiative in 2021, and it's a 5-year community change plan to help to really move the needle on issues confronting our community, as you mentioned, in the areas of education, housing and homelessness, health, and workforce development.
And focus on inequities in those areas as well, I would imagine.
Exactly. In every single area, we're focused on bridging the gaps and closing the inequities.
So we got the scorecard in for 2023, correct?
Yes.
And how'd we do?
So scorecard is showing definitely some progress in some areas, and specifically in health, we saw some great progress in terms of access to health, but know that that might be a little bit of a temporary situation. There were so many relief efforts right through the pandemic where people were provided that access. Also in the area of food insecurity, we did see also some progress there. Again, we also think there's likely benefits that were issued through the pandemic that kind of sustained through that time. We know some of those are starting to fade away as a result of changes there. And so keeping a watchful eye, know that there's been some success trying to figure out how we can maintain that. And then in the area of education, we know reading levels at third grade have maintained for the most part, but know that there's, again, some potential challenges there because of the challenges around chronic absenteeism that we're seeing in our community now. And then in the area of workforce development.
Yeah, in the area of workforce development, we've seen some great progress, in particular as it relates to helping people to secure higher paying employment. And we think that coming out of the pandemic, actually, that was a plus because as people are coming back to work, employers are really looking to bring people back into higher paying jobs. So we've seen some great success there.
Higher paying jobs and worker wages were raised as well.
Yes,
correct?
exactly.
You mentioned coming out of the pandemic and starting really in the heart of the pandemic.
Yes.
Did the goalposts move? I mean, how do you know what's really going on out there?
Yeah, well, we talked about this exactly. You said you're setting the goals and the goalposts are going to move. And I mean, the numbers moved in the wrong direction in every single area because of the pandemic. And so we actually moved forward on the baselines from the pandemic. And so the progress that Emma's talking about are coming out of the pandemic. So we've seen progress in all the areas. The area that we have not seen progress in, though, however, is in the area of housing and homelessness,
yes.
which I'm sure you can imagine.
Yes.
We've seen it throughout the country and here in Phoenix. That's an area of particular challenge, but it's also an area where there's been a lot of attention and momentum and investments from the cities, from corporations, and really wanting to get the shelters in place, and now really looking at getting people housed more permanently through solutions that are needed in the longer term.
So that addresses that particular area. The other areas that you did see some improvement in, what was done to facilitate that improvement?
So, definitely a bigger picture, systemic type of effort, right? Specific to health and food insecurity, we saw a lot of effective policies around renewal of access, to access, right? Mm-hmm. Some of those things that really helped ensure that people continue to have those benefits. And so I think what we've learned is that, that's effective, right? What are the things that we can do to continue to ensure that those that most need those services are familiar with the information? We saw a lot of success with community health care workers who are grassroots-based educators working with those folks that are least likely to have that information, ensuring that they know that they're eligible, they know how to apply, that they have access
get that
to
information
that
out there.
information.
Yeah, you got about 30 seconds left here. How best to maximize these efforts and maximize this report card?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the best way to maximize it is to get the word out far and wide about where we've seen successes. There are so many nonprofit organizations that are doing work in these areas that if they're not already partnering with United Way, that we'd love to partner with them to spread these best practices further and wider. Corporations and donors who want to be involved, they can contact us at vsuw.org. We have many ways to volunteer, to get connected directly through coalitions and through actually even directly being a mentor or someone that can walk alongside someone who's trying to get into a new job and to learn those skills.
All right, good information. Carla, Emma, good to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Wonderful. Thanks for having us.
And that's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Support for Arizona PBS comes from viewers like you and from
Discover WeGrad from ASU, your go-to digital program for busy K-12 families seeking academic success. Get expert child development advice delivered in quick 5-minute lessons to your phone via text. WeGrad equips students and families with essential tools for college readiness. At ASU, we graduate together. Register at wegrad.asu.edu/digital and transform aspirations into reality.
Coming up tonight at 7. At 8. At 8:30.
Hi, I'm Catherine Anaya, host of Horizonte. Have you signed up for the Arizona PBS Conexión e-newsletter? Visit azpbs.org/